Over the next few weeks, starting after Advent Sunday, the staff at St. Augustine's are providing a series of 4 meditations to mark the 4 weeks of Advent. Advent is not quite so well known a season as, say, Lent, at least not outside the church. It's a mysterious season because it's a season that looks forward, first and most obviously to Christmas, but beyond that it sort of looks over the shoulder of Christmas to something even more mysterious and strange and having to do with the final meaning, end, glory of everything. The word Advent, or its Latin, which is adventus, means very simply an arrival, like someone turning up that you've been expecting. It can also mean an invasion, a time when everything changes because something actually very terrible has happened. The first arrival or invasion to which Advent refers and which we'll think about during Advent is the arrival of Christmas, the Word made flesh, born into human history in Bethlehem, as is told in the Gospels. Now, there is an irony about the invasion or arrival that we look for during Advent. We anticipate, that is the arrival of this child in, as we imagine it, wintry circumstances and almost certainly perilous circumstances after a journey. But it's a very quiet kind of invasion. And the irony is that it takes place during a census imposed by the invaders of Israel, the Romans. An imperial power counting people up for the purposes of revenue, taxation. A subjugated people who has been invaded by an imperial power. And yet, in the middle of this invasion is another invasion, an invasion that Luke, of course, tells us rightly is much, much more decisive because it affects not only the people of Israel, but everyone. Other sense of arrival, not just invasion, but a more continuous sense, a sort of arriving or approaching, like a figure you see far off and keeps coming a little bit closer. At Christmas, what begins and what we celebrate is the slow and stealthy transformation of the world by the foolishness of God, by that long history in which God teaches us to repay evil with good, to exercise forgiveness and patience, to struggle to bring good where there is evil, to bring good out of evil. This is the history in which we are formed into people who can strive to overcome hatred with love and destruction with patient, determined, and resilient care. So Advent looks forward to the birth of God's new beginning, the renewal of things, initially through this quiet invasion which we celebrate at Christmas. But that Advent, that arrival, our expectation, has this double focus. We are looking toward Christmas, but we're also looking toward the final glorification of creation, when God will be all in all, and every tear dried, and every wound healed. And in our 4 meditations for Advent, we've tried to capture something of that double focus. On the one hand, we look toward the New Jerusalem. And on the other, we also think about what God is creating in the world at present that points towards that fulfillment, that labours towards it. So we've taken 4 virtues: hope, faith, love, and peace. The virtues in and from which God makes creation's true and final future. This is the way God fulfills the world, by giving his perfections to us. At the same time, as we look forward in hope both to Christmas and to God's final purposes in creation, we know that we are living this hope, this expectation, in troubled lives, and especially today, in a world threatened by global warming, by the accelerating extinction of species, and by the breakdown of international relationships and the accelerating threats of war. So each meditation, on the one hand, explores something about a virtue God's in spirit works within us. And on the other hand, a little bit about the context, about the world in which this virtue is gifted to us and forms us. So my colleague Simon Stocks will be talking about hope, but also about yearning and longing. Week 2 will be led by Guido de Graaf, and Guido will be talking about faith, but also about fear, worry, anxiety. I'm going to be giving the 3rd meditation, taking the virtue of love, but I'm also going to be talking about anger and its relationship to love, or also the way in which anger destroys love. And finally, on the last week before Christmas, Jenny Corcoran will be talking about peace, but also about the vulnerability of peace, how fragile it can be, and how we can stay true to peacemaking in spite of its fragility and the dangers that confront it. Anyway, each week we'll publish a little introduction on our website and a link to the YouTube channel where you can listen directly using the YouTube player. You can also read along with the audio retreat, as we're calling it, and you can download the transcript for every episode. And of course you can also use the subtitles or closed captions on the videos if that's the way you'd prefer to listen to it. I hope you enjoy these meditations and that they'll encourage you to set aside a little time each week to think and to pray, to wonder about the world you live in, and find in the promise of God strength and courage to live boldly and lovingly.